Um, so I'm just going to go ahead and start by thanking everyone for being with us. Bishop Harvey, would you like to give us some opening words to your laity?
Yes, I just wanted this opportunity to thank you personally. Um, I learned a lot of things during disaffiliation, some things I wish I never had to learn. But one of the things that I learned that became clearer than ever is the power of the laity. The power of the laity. You all did the hard work and you held this conference together. And now we have this opportunity to really thrive in this next season of our life. Um, Melissa Mayer and I had the privilege of being at Woodville this morning, and that's one of those churches that I put in. I don't know if this is being recorded, but I'll say it anyway. I put in the hell no, we won't go category. And these loyal, faithful servants made a decision that they would remain United Methodist. And today we got to consecrate a new building. That is remarkable. That would not have happened had it not been for clergy. And we've got about 9 of those stories of those new faith communities that continue still today. And I'm just more and more um, inspired by the commitment of our laity. So over the remainder of this quadrennium, you'll see me and hear me, I hope, and hold me accountable to do so, um, to really lift up laity and to encourage and support and empower and to teach and to do the things that I know that we have the capacity to do because of you. So, yes, there's a lot of reasons why we need to be who we are. But the most important is because of who you are. So I'm just grateful to you. I'm grateful to Janet for her leadership, for John Esquivel's prior leadership, and all the lay leaders that have brought us to this point, because it does take all of us to do this work. So I'm thankful, and I wanted to say that to you again, so that you hold me accountable um, to um, to helping all of us do our work and to do everything that we can to lift you up and celebrate the work and the ministry of the lady. If I had my druthers, I know we have the order of deacons and we have the order of elders. I would have another order, and it would be called the Order of the Laity. And I think that is what uh, you're championing, Janet, and so many of you that are on this call. So again, I give this to Janet and to all of you to do the work and know that I'm not just behind you or in front of you. I'm alongside you to do this work. So thank you.
Bishop Harvey, we're so thankful for you and your leadership. You are an inspiration, and we are just so glad to be working with you in this mission. So really I want to thank Stephanie Griffin and Juanita Jackson for helping us prepare this. They did some research and found that there are some guides for lay member delegates to the annual conference that discipleshipministries.org has published. They have resources for all of us that are in any kind of laity leadership role. And so our guidance to you is really from them and from that organization. And so let's just go through a few things that we have for you. One of the things, just sort of backing up, is what are the qualifications of a lay member delegate of the annual conference? Well, to be a member of the United Methodist Church for years prior. We encourage you to enjoy learning about issues. As you can see, there's lots to learn. There's a good bit to become educated about ahead of the conference. But even more than that, to really get curious about our church organization, about parliamentary procedure, and fundamentally to learn about the issues, programs, and hopes of the people in the community, your church community, and in the congregation and in our connection. So, here are some things that you can do ahead of the conference to help. You heard today that there is a good bit of discussion of that pre-conference journal. And in the chat here, you have a link to get to that and read it carefully. Keep your notes from all of these discussions. This pre-conference meeting has been recorded, so read the journal, keep your notes, and if you need to, re-review this recording so that when you get there, you're very well prepared for the business items of the meeting. And so that, as you've heard, it's very important if you are a lay delegate member to the annual conference that you make your plans to be there, you clear your calendar, you're sure that this is going to work for you. But if you can't go, please work with your pastor or your district superintendent's office to find an alternate if you can't go. As you've heard, every vote counts. We need you there. But also, that connection is important so that we've got a connection between the United Methodist Church conference level, district level, and then your church. So, one of the main things that we really want to emphasize for you is to plan on being a connector. What does that mean? Connect among your membership. If you are a lay delegate to the annual conference, make sure that you understand your own church community and the folks that are there. Connect within your district. You'll have the opportunity to meet your district lay leaders, and then others within the district, other churches near to you that may have similar dreams and visions for the communities that you're in. So stay curious about the mission and the structure of the United Methodist Church. There is a lot to be curious about. And then, more than that, spend some time with your pastors and other leaders to really understand the vision of your district, community, and congregation. Talk to the folks in your congregation and in other congregations who've attended annual conference sessions. As I mentioned, there is a lot of training that's available to all of us at umcdiscipleship.org. And I would encourage you to take the local church leaders, lay members to annual conference webinar. There's a lot of good information in there as well. And then how to help at the conference. Attend all the sessions that you possibly can. And here's an important point that isn't just from me, this is from leaders that have come before us. Engage in the spiritual practices that build attentiveness to God's will and direction. We ask that you arrive, as Bishop Harvey said, prayed up. Pray for our church, pray for our connection, pray that God will lead you to really learn more that can serve in spreading the gospel. And so Troy is here with us, and he previously talked to us a little bit about this conference booklet that you'll receive at registration. We would encourage you to definitely make that booklet your own. It's been introduced a little bit, but this will come to you at registration. Troy, do you have anything else that you would like to add to that?
No, I don't think there's anything to add. I mean, if anyone has any questions, I put the link to guidebook in the chat. So if anyone has not downloaded that yet, you can go there and download it. When the guide is available, it will also be in guidebook, in a digital form. But the booklet, I'm sorry, the booklet I'm talking about, the booklet will be handed out for you to hold on to. I guess we got some feedback that, people like to have something tangible, and they'll have some fun exercises and just space for you to write notes and anything about the individual sessions you attend. So
Thank you, Troy. If there's anything that I've learned, I'm very enthusiastic about what I've learned throughout the day, but there are so many days in the conference, and by the time I leave, I'm looking for scraps of paper that I might have written some notes down or gotten the name and number of someone that is in similar kind of work as mine. This will be really helpful. There's lots of room for that kind of thing, lots of room in there for the connection. So I want to thank you. Troy and Kelsey for your hard work on this.
yeah, Kelsey did most of that. She did a great job, and we appreciate that.
Thank you to you both. Now, we talked earlier about amendment to the Constitution, and I'm just going to go back to the very basics. All laity, of course, have been invited to stay on here, and I know that we've got very experienced lay members to the annual conference, but just to go back to kind of the basics, the Constitution that we're referencing is the fundamental constituting and legal document of the United Methodist Church. And it's found in Part 1 of the United Methodist Book of Discipline. It establishes the basic outline for the organization of the denomination, as well as establishing the office and role of the bishop. The Constitution establishes the Judicial Council as the body to rule on matters of church law. And so, one of the things that we've been talking about this evening has been the amendment to the Constitution. And those can originate from either the General Conference, annual conferences, or jurisdictional or central conferences. And as you know, when there is an amendment, they must be voted on by the General Conference, which happened, and then be ratified by the annual conferences, which is where we are right now. And so I'm going to turn it over to Trey, who has joined us, and give Trey an opportunity to give us a little bit of an introduction on what to expect. This is Trey Burns. He is our secretary for the Texas Annual Conference.
Thank you very much, Janet. As a reminder, for those of you who are new to conference or who have been to conference but have always wanted to know what the secretary does, the annual conference secretary is responsible for a few things, mostly during the session, keeping track of proceedings. I produce the minutes that you'll get in the journal, a virtual copy of the journal after conference. And then I also handle correspondence, official correspondence between the annual conference and other levels of the church hierarchy, like the jurisdictional conference or the general conference. With regard to the constitutional amendments, if you were on towards the beginning, well, maybe halfway through the pre-conference meeting, Bishop Harvey talked about sort of the process of how the constitutional amendments are ratified. And so as you heard from Lindsay Kirkpatrick and Tom Pace and DeAndre Johnson, this is an aggregate vote of all of the members of the annual conferences around the denomination. So here in the United States and around the world. And so we will take our votes, and then I will note on a form what the official vote is for our conference. I keep it secret and send that off to one of our bishops and to the secretary of the general conference. But and then they'll canvass those, as Bishop Harvey said, in several months once all the conferences have voted. For our purposes at annual conference, this means, as you heard Lance Richards say in his video, that we will be voting on paper ballots. We decided that was the best way, most cost-effective way for us to be able to take these votes. We know that electronic voting would have been faster, but for one vote, or I guess 4 votes on one day of conference, that wasn't a great investment of our resources. And so we'll be voting on paper ballots. You will get an individual ballot for each of the 4 amendments that will have a question. It'll say amendment, ratification vote 1, have some data about the particular amendment in question. And then it will have the short title. So it'll be the amendment on voting to ratify the amendment on regionalization or the amendment on equality. and we'll move through those at the direction of Bishop Harvey. She'll open discussion on one particular ballot, and as you heard a few times in the earlier meeting, constitutional amendments are debatable, so anyone can get up and speak about them. They are not amendable, so we'll debate them for as long as the rules allow, and then once that's over, we will mark on our individual ballots yes or no. The question will be I approve the ratification of amendment XYZ, and you will mark yes or no on that. I've gotten the question a few times if there will be a spot for abstentions. The wisdom from the General Conference Secretary is that in a vote like this, not voting is the same as abstaining, and it won't have any effect on the total number. We'll only be counting the yeses and the nos. So if you really don't feel comfortable on any particular amendment voting one way or the other, you can simply not mark your ballot, and that will be counted as an abstention, but not counted in the actual vote. It will just be treated as a non-vote.
And that's according to Robert's rules, Trey. Abstentions are not recorded.
Right. Yeah. And so we'll just take the numbers of the yeses and the numbers of the nos, put that on the form, and send it in. Bishop Harvey, I do not know. I haven't heard from Lance. Will we be submitting ballots individually, or will we collect them all four at the same time?
No, I think that for our purposes, since they're four, not to get them mixed up would be really important. So I think as kind of cumbersome as that might be, I think especially for you, Trey, it'd be easier to take the ballot, collect them, and put them in the envelope, do it 4 times. And I know that just sounds awful, but I think taking 4 individual ballots and then collecting them is the safest way possible.
That is what I was hoping we would do.
Okay, good.
I'm willing to defer to you or Lance and Monica if y'all felt that was too cumbersome. The ballots will also be printed on separate colored sheets of paper, so they will be distinct in the way they look. I don't know if we picked the colors yet, but they will be on different colored paper so that we know we're voting on Amendment 1, which will be on, for instance, the green paper. And then we're voting on Amendment 2, which will be on the red paper or whatever it ends up being.
And one of the questions that's in the Q&A is that this person, didn't someone say that laity, lay delegates, some lay delegates were not eligible to vote on certain items? All lay people you have more authority than clergy in this one. All lay people that are lay delegates that get a badge and that's recorded that you're a delegate, you can vote. It's clergy, because it's only clergy that are in full connection that can vote on constitutional amendments. So local pastors cannot vote. Deacons and elders can vote. So just so you know, and the question may not pertain to you because we're all lay here, but the question always comes up, what about the people that are not yet ordained? Like we haven't laid hands on them. Technically, the clergy session are the ones that bring those people into full connection. They're the ones that actually cast the vote. So their official act is in the clergy session. So they would be eligible to vote.
The one clarification, and I don't think we brought this up earlier, if you are a reserve delegate from a congregation, which I don't think we have many that come to our conference, Bishop, but my understanding is that they can only vote if the primary delegate is absent and they are properly seated.
Correct. And they have to be properly seated in the bar, because that also is a pretty important technical feature in this process. So if you're a reserve delegate and you're substituting for another elected delegate, You have to be seated on the floor at the time that the vote is taken.
Thank you, Reverend Burns, Bishop Harvey. We've had a number of questions that have come up, and I'm going to take us back to the very best basics because we've got some very new folks here. To it's a glossary of terms that I'd like to show everyone just to kind of go back to the basics. So one of the things that I want to return us to is just some terms that we're throwing about. Those of us that have a little bit more experience being here use some terms. So we use the term lay person. A lay person is a baptized, confirmed member of a local church. A lay member of the annual conference is the voting lay delegate to the annual conference. And each annual conference is required to consist of an equal number of lay members and ministerial members. And so we've had some questions in the chat. Do laity and ministers vote? Yes. If you are a lay member of the annual conference, you do. And a lay member of the annual conference is usually voted by a charge conference and sometimes by a district. But either way, that is as a result of a pastoral charge conference election. We may have lay people there that are not lay delegates. We may have guests who are there. But for the purposes of voting, we are looking at those that are elected into that role. So yes, it's both. So the way that we're set up is that we have as many laity present as voting members as we do clergy that are voting members. And that's what we're trying to accomplish by being there. And there are several votes that we'll take, as you heard. I'm hoping that that helps sort of clear some of those questions about all of that. When we use the term in the bar, we're talking about the voting bar rather than margaritas being served. So we're talking about those folks that are eligible to vote at the annual conference will be invited to sit in a certain section to vote, and we call that the bar. And so that's what you'll expect when you hear that. Luckily, our name tags will have the information on that in terms of whether or not you're registered as a voting lay member delegate at the annual conference or you're registered as a guest. So I'm hoping that that'll help a little bit to understand who votes and when and some of those questions about that. Bishop Harvey, I didn't mean to interrupt, but I wanted to take us to the very, very end of that one.
And that was great because you answered some of the questions that were in the chat.
Okay, good.
Before we move on, I just wanted to chime in and say we'll be voting on other things as well. Those will not be as intense. For a first-time delegate, please, well, I hope not, at least not in terms of balloting. For pretty much everything else that we'll do, it will be kind of standard parliamentary voting. I think sometimes, Bishop Harvey, you invite a voice vote, so you just ask people to say, those in favor say yes, those in favor say no. If the bishop thinks that that the answer is clear, we move on. We can take a vote of hands or a standing vote if we want a more exact count. That's generally up to the bishop, although I think people, members of the conference can ask for a vote if they want. But the rest of our votes on other matters will be a little bit simpler than the balloting process for constitutional amendments.
Thank you, Reverend Burns. So we had a number of questions that came up in the chat. We're going to give just another moment or two for any additional questions about what to expect when we think about voting coming up.
And let me just, while people are thinking, I usually is it voting to adjourn? That's a yay or nay. But if it's something significant, I'll usually ask for a show of hands. That just helps me, and it just also helps the House see the voting. So I will do that if it's something significant.
Thank you. Oh, hi, Kelsey. Thanks for joining.
I just wanted to pop in and say also that the conference booklet, the printed piece that we'll be providing for all delegates at check-in at annual conference, has the daily schedule. And on that agenda, every voting item will be indicated with a little star, so you won't ever miss a vote. So if you need to step out of the room, you'll know exactly where we are on the agenda, and those voting items will be indicated in the booklet. Hope that's
Great.
helpful.
Thank you, Kelsey Johnson, who's been a huge help for us in communications, and has really been working hard on that booklet.
Janet, people have asked I know the Laity session is on Monday, but frankly, I'm just on a need to know basis. Somebody's just going to point me in the right direction. So what time?
It's at 8 o'clock on Monday, the 26th, 8 a.m. And that also will be in your pre-conference journal and in the booklet. You'll be able to see that. And then at noon that day will be the Laity Luncheon that we hope that everyone will register for, so that we can spend even more time together learning and enjoying each other's fellowship. So this is all in preparation, and it's a lot. But I want us to think about, beginning with the end in mind. Like, what do we want to do with all of this information? So we want you to make your booklet your own. And so be sure to spend time with that booklet that you'll be getting at registration. Review the recordings of the session. Those will be available too. So before the conference, maybe re-review the pre-conference webinar, but then afterwards, look back on the recordings of everything that happens, the worship sessions, the ordination sessions, the memorial, the retirement worship times, because you're going to want to convey all of this together with your pastor and other delegates of what exactly happened at Annual Conference 2025. So these are all going to be some things that you can look at and really refresh your memory about. As I said before, arrive at the conference curious, connecting, and prepared. Because there are going to be a number of resources that are available to us. And we want to make sure that you take advantage of all of that. There are people to be met. There are ministries to learn about. And we don't want you to miss anything that is relevant to you. So just to kind of close out, and we'll review the questions in the Q&A. My advice as a lay person, as a lay delegate to the annual conference, is try to focus on being a resource, a communicator, and a connector ahead of the conference, during the conference, and then throughout the year. We think that you're going to learn, grow, and really experience how great it is to be a part of a connection in the United Methodist Church. And I hope that you will find that to be true, and that we'll have every opportunity to meet one another at these sessions and throughout. So I'm going to take a moment, review the Q&A. If there's anything that's popping up there, we'll be just about done there. So we've got what time? We've got the laity assumption. Will the Committee on the Status and Role of Women monitor? I believe that they will be there. They're an important part of our conference, and so we want to make sure that that's in place. I don't have the times of all of the different votes that will be called, but you will be able to find that in your conference journal. And as Kelsey pointed out, that's also going to be in your booklet. So you should have that going in well ahead of the actual conference itself, as when those votes are going to be taken and when we need you to be there. Is the bar ADA accessible for people who use scooters and walkers? That's been very important to the conference leadership team. Folks have wanted to make sure that people of all abilities are able to be seated and participate fully in all of the activities of the conference, and not only just the bar, but throughout everything that we do. So thank you. I think that those are the questions that I see. I'll check the chat, but it looks like everything is there. Do we register for the conference on the 25th or the 26th? If I remember correctly, the conference registration is all in one fell swoop. There are separate registrations for meals, but in terms of the actual registration for the conference, I believe that's all in one.
And I think that's all on Monday or Sunday. Sorry, the registration actually begins on the 25th. I think that might be what they're asking.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Thank you. I was thinking ahead of time.
I think I think registration has passed.
Okay.
Yes, you get badges and all on Sunday.
Yes, that's right. That is on Sunday afternoon. Mhm. All right, everyone. Well, if I'm not seeing any more questions in the chat or the Q&A that haven't been answered, so if you will pray with me, Bishop Harvey, would you like to, or I'd be happy to?
I think you'd be fine praying. I will just say that one of the things that just to note that someone sent to me a text that there were 80 people gathered in one of our churches today for this pre-conference meeting, and there's still lay people there. So, so they're probably not counted in the 99. That's funny, 99 sheep, 99 that are still on. There's, let's see, 80 or 79 more somewhere gathered.
Well, if each of you that are in a group, I hope that you will turn to one another and give each other high fives and a round of applause for being together, to being dedicated to your church and the world and the community, and this Texas Annual Conference. Will you pray with me? Loving God, we thank you for your people. We thank you for your leaders, both clergy and laity. We ask you to be with us, to help us to prepare for this meeting together. Help open our eyes, guide us as we lead toward your mission. Be with us, bring us together safely, guide us and protect us. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Thank you, Janet. Thank you, everyone, for sticking in.
Appreciate you.
All right. Yeah, appreciate all of you. Have a great evening.
Good night.